Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welger. You are listening to episode 290 of the podcast, unless you're joining me live on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Today's Sunday, August 28th. And I got to tell you, it feels great saying these words again. It has been 77 days, if you can believe it, since this podcast has been on the airwaves. Had to put the show on a little bit of a hiatus, and I just want to start by giving a big thank you to everybody who has reached out and asked if everything is okay. It definitely is. I feel great. I wasn't in the best headspace for a little while. I had a little bit of a health scare, family health scare, that just kind of made me realize there are more important things in this life than talking about drinking and fighting. This podcast is a luxury and a privilege in my life and a fun hobby that I get to do. And I'm definitely grateful for it. And I'm grateful for everybody who watches and listens, and definitely to everyone who reached out. I saw all the messages. I saw all the comments, all the DMs, and I appreciate every single one of you. Cheers to all of you. And it's good to be back. I had to take a break from social media too, just because I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed with some things in my life. It happens to everybody. And I'm the type of person that I thrive on positivity. And social media is a cesspool of toxic energy. And I just needed a little bit of a break from it. So I hid all the apps on my phone. They're all still there, but I have to actually search for them in order to open them. And I've been checking in on a few people, but for the most part, staying away. And I got to say, it improved my headspace exponentially. And I will be back on social media, just in smaller doses. It's a good thing to cut back on. It's easy to get tied up in drama and bad shit that's going on in the world, and we don't need any part of that. So 77 days since I've done a podcast. One good sign, I remembered how to do it, like turn it on at least anyway. I don't know if I still remember how to do it effectively and be entertaining, but a lot has happened since the last show, which was back in June. The summer flew by, did a little bit of traveling, did some fun things, spending a lot of time with family. That was the main reason for the departure from social media and from the podcast and everything like that. Did a lot of fun things. A lot happened in the MMA world. Before we get into any of that, I'll tell you guys what I'm sipping on here. And cheers to all of you glorious motherfuckers. Special pour today. A little bit of Stag Junior. For those of you who are into whiskey, you know this is a bit of a unicorn in the bourbon world. I have a few bottles of it that I'm hoarding, and I figured, this is a special enough occasion to break a little bit of it out, pour a nice heavy pour. This comes out of Buffalo Trace. Longtime listeners know one of my favorite distilleries. They make, obviously, Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Colonel Taylor, some of my favorite bourbons. This Stag Junior is a barrel-proof whiskey, so it's 131.1 proof. Every year it comes out, it's a different proof, but it's usually high. It's usually up in the high 120s or low 130s, somewhere around there. So this one 131, but it drinks really smooth. It doesn't have the bite you would think that a whiskey that's over 65% alcohol would have. It's got a little bit of a burn to it, but it's smoothed out by some nice vanilla and caramel flavors, and it's got a little bit of cherry on the back end, which I really enjoy. Something else I've been doing over this summer that I found to be delicious. I'll go to the grocery store, buy a bag of frozen cherries that are like pitted and destemmed and everything. And I'll throw a handful of them in a mason jar and soak them in bourbon, usually like an Old Forester or a Buffalo Trace. Throw that in the fridge overnight and just pour it over ice the next day. It's basically like an old fashioned without the sugar, because all that syrup from that natural sugar from the cherry seeps into the bourbon, brings out those natural cherry flavors that already exist in a lot of bourbons. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been up to. How have you guys been? Please leave me some comments and let me know what everyone has been up to in the last few months. While I've been gone, we missed the 6-year anniversary of the podcast. We started this thing, Jeff the Animal Wilson and myself, in 2016. It was right around UFC 200, I think. For those who don't know, this show just started where Jeff would come over to my apartment and we would turn off the commentary on the fights and just have drinks and talk about what was going on. And I said, hey, we should start recording this. Never thinking that anyone would ever listen to it. So it still amazes me that there are people, not just people, but people all over the world who listen to this thing. It blows my mind, and definitely grateful for that. Jeff the Animal Wilson, obviously not joining me today because he's a world traveler now. He's down in Aruba, then making his way to Peru. He's an international man of mystery, so he's having a great time. If you want to send him any well wishes, you can't reach him directly because Jeff also limited his existence on social media. But if you send me a message, I can make sure that he gets it for you. Of course, we all miss Jeff, and we'll get him back on the airwaves as soon as we can. I just decided that today was the day to bring the show back for no reason in particular. Maybe because there was no UFC, there was nothing going on. So, why not bring it back? Man, a lot of things happened while I was gone. Big retirements in the MMA world. Rory McDonald, Donald Cowboy Cerrone, Luke Rockhold, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, just legend after legend. It seems like, every week we get a new legend retiring. So a big thank you to all of those fighters. Each of them have been in some legendary fights and put on some incredible performances and entertained us throughout the years. They've been the topics of a lot of stories on this show, for better or for worse. And yeah, it's great to see someone like Rory McDonald who's able to retire at a younger age and doesn't have to do this. I assume he's done all right with his money and, just doesn't need to do this anymore. So he's able to hang it up. So congratulations to him and to everyone else who's retired. I mean, Cowboy, Luke Rockhold, and Joanna, all first ballot UFC Hall of Famers, I would think. They've all been champions except for Cowboy, but Cowboy has to be the most loved fighter in the history of the UFC that's never won a championship. People just love that guy, and for good reason. He's always put on great fights. He's taken fights on short notice that, maybe he shouldn't have. And maybe if he didn't, it would have led him to, a possible championship run. But I think that's what people love about him. He's a risk taker. He was willing to bet on himself all the time and fight 5-6 times a year. I believe tied for the record of most UFC wins still with Jim Miller, unless Jim Miller just passed him. But And then, Luke Rockhold retiring after that wacky fight with Paulo Costa, where they were, I guess, it was because of the elevation, but those two guys were just exhausted. Like Luke with his hands on his knees, and then he would stand up just to throw like a spinning back kick. And then at the end, when he was just like shaking the blood into Paulo Costa's face, it reminded me of Fight Club when Brad Pitt is pinning the guy down and shooting the blood into his mouth. You don't know where I've been, Lou. That's what I was thinking about when Luke Rockhold was doing that at the end of the fight with Paulo Costa. It was a fun fight. It was like weirdly entertaining, even though it was like so sloppy, and it just looked like two old guys like in a bar fight outside the American Legion. They're just putting their hands on their knees and like breathing heavy and sucking wind. It was wild, but Luke Rockhold, and a lot of people have said this, he's a guy who it's hard to articulate it, because you can't say he didn't live up to his potential. I mean, he was the champion, but a lot of people thought when he beat Chris Weidman, like, this is the guy. This is the guy who's going to go on this epic middleweight run. And I guess injuries and whatever else happened to him, he got upset by Michael Bisping, lost the title, and was never really the same after that. A lot of people say his chin went. Other people say he just wasn't training hard. Whatever the case, he was always an unbelievable talent. Like, you could never deny that about Luke. I mean, he had good striking. I mean, he dropped his lead hand a lot, but he had those question mark kicks and those spin kicks and all stuff like that. And his top grappling was amazing. Yeah, I'd say he's a Hall of Famer. I don't see how you can make an argument that he's not. With the performances he's put on. Don't forget, he was a champion in Strikeforce as well before the Strikeforce was acquired by the UFC. He was part of that crop of Strikeforce fighters that came over to the UFC and just did so well. A lot better than the Pride fighters who came over to the UFC when Pride was acquired. We thought all these guys were going to come over and be killers, and then they all just flopped, well, most of them anyway. Vanderlei Silva, Mirko Cro Cop, like, you thought these guys were going to come over and be the killers they were over there, but cocaine's a hell of a drug. Let's not forget Joanna Jędrzejczyk throwing the gloves down. Man, what a savage that lady is. She's just put on so many spectacular performances. And, from the moment she beat Carla Esparza for that strawweight title and became the second champion, she became the Boogie Woman. Like, she was like the 115-pound Mike Tyson. Like, people were afraid of her. Never realized that 2-division championship, but man, such incredible fights. Her fight with Weili Zhang, a lot of people say it was the greatest fight ever, and if somebody believes that, it'd be hard to argue against it. I mean, I could see it being a lot of people's favorite fights. Her face was busted up. She looked like an alien with those giant hematomas everywhere. What a tough competitor and such a skilled fighter. Many years of Muay Thai, world champion in the UFC. Joanna Jędrzejczyk's in my Hall of Fame for whatever that means. Yeah, so retirements. We missed an anniversary. Happy anniversary to us. Happy anniversary, Jeff, if you're listening. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for over 6 years now. I think early July was the 6-year anniversary. We've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of drinks, talked about a lot of great fights. Yeah, the other thing that went on quite a bit and I've been watching all the fights. I haven't been talking on Twitter about anything or Instagram or doing the podcast, obviously, but I have still been watching for the most part. Maybe not watching all the cards like top to bottom, but at least all the main cards. And something I found weird in the past few months is all the freak injuries in big fights. We had Anthony Smith, Tom Aspinall, Brian Ortega, the last two happening in the main events. And it's just strange. It makes you wonder if we're reaching a point in this sport where these athletes at the highest level are training so hard that their body just can't take it anymore. And it's still a pretty young sport if you think about it. It started, officially in 1993. Obviously, there were things that were comparable before that, but we're still learning so much about how to mix all these different martial arts together, how to have a proper diet to be a professional fighter, how to do proper strength and conditioning. And, a lot of people are just in the dark about it. You just kind of do what you think is right. Am I running enough miles? Am I lifting enough weights? Am I doing enough jujitsu? Am I doing enough wrestling? How's my boxing? I only did one round of kickboxing sparring this week. It's such a crazy balance. And I think, especially for these elite competitors, like Anthony Smith, like Tom Aspinall, like Brian Ortega, I think it's easy for them to just overdo it and put their body through more than it can take. And then when the body's under stress, like in the main event of a UFC fight, it just doesn't hold up. We started to see this. There was a big trend in like the late 2000s when everybody in the NFL was tearing their ACL. And it got to be, you had to start to consider, are these guys getting too big and too strong for their own bodies? If a running back is 5'10" and he's, 260 pounds of solid muscle, and he's running a fucking 4-second 40-yard sprint or whatever these guys do, like, is your body really meant to handle all that? And you might be able to put on as much muscle as you want, but you can't really strengthen like the tendons and ligaments and everything that's holding your body together. And diet plays a big part too. There's still so much we don't know about that. You could be eating food that's like making your bones brittle, and like, one day you kick something and your shin bone just shatters. So wild stuff like this happened. Obviously with Ortega, it was with Ortega, it probably should have counted as a submission, because he just, a guy of his caliber of jiu-jitsu should know that you can't just yank your arm out of an arm bar like that. And it was tight. It was a tight arm bar from Yair Rodriguez. I don't think anybody saw that coming, especially Brian Ortega. He probably thought, if it goes to the ground, it's a done deal. He can, cash his bonus check. But apparently, Yair has submissions off his back. And yeah, Ortega just like pulled his arm right out of the socket. I guess it was an existing injury. He had dislocated it a few times or whatever happened. And then Aspinall, it was the knee. But, was it the fact that Curtis Blades checked the kick? We don't really know. None of us can feel, what's inside Tom Aspinall's body. None of us, felt the kick except for Curtis Blades. So it's hard to say. And then with Anthony Smith, like, he's getting closer to 40. I'm pretty sure he's up there. He's probably around my age, 37, 38. The body just can't take that kind of punishment like it used to. May just be a case of that. But Yeah, so we had a bunch of retirements. We had a bunch of wild injuries. We've had some great fights. We've had some titles change hands. Amanda Nunes reclaimed her bantamweight title. She's still the featherweight champion too. For some reason, that weight class exists, even though we haven't seen a fight in that weight class in I don't know, a year. Can anybody tell me when the last women's featherweight fight was? I have no idea. Was it Nunes against Cyborg? What was that, 2 years ago? How far are we going back? Is this still a division anymore? I don't, I don't know what's going on with this. The only fight that anybody wants to see at 145 pounds is Kayla Harrison against Amanda Nunes, or Kayla Harrison against Cyborg, or Cyborg against Amanda Nunes in a rematch. And we can't get any of those fights because these three ladies are all in different divisions. But in any case, Amanda Nunes, don't piss her off, man. And history says that if an older fighter loses to a younger fighter and they rematch, the younger fighter is going to win only quicker. Nobody told Amanda Nunes that's how it's supposed to go, because she smashed Juliana Pena and recovered her title. I mean, they'll probably have to do a rubber match, since Pena was able to finish Nunes in the first fight. But Amanda showed like she's clearly the superior fighter, skill for skill. We got a new welterweight champion as well. Second British champ in UFC history, Leon Edwards. And the shock of that fight was not that Leon won, and not that he won by knockout, but one of the greatest comebacks ever, if not the greatest comeback ever. Because here he comes out in the first round, wins the first round against Usman, takes Usman down, the first person technically to take Usman down, even though we all know Colby Covington took him down in the last fight. Daniel Cormier even said that was 2 points for takedown. So Colby's taking him down, but for some reason, the people keeping the UFC books didn't agree, and they didn't award Colby the takedown. So for all intents and purposes, Leon Edwards, the first man to take down Kamaru Usman. Fine. Let's give him the trophy. So he wins the first round, and then Usman comes out like a man on fire and fights a damn near perfect fight for the next 3.5 rounds until he bites on a feint so hard with less than a minute to go in the 5th round. He had about 56 seconds before he was walking out of that building, still the champ. Because let's face it, he dominated Leon Edwards after the first round. It was a near picture perfect performance. And Dean Thomas had even said, and he caught a lot of flack for it, he said that, Leon basically gave up. And we all saw it. We saw his body language. We saw he wasn't looking his coach in the eyes. He looked defeated. He felt like, here we go again. I'm going to get held down in these championship rounds. And then his corner just lit a fire under his ass. And Leon just came back. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And it was one of the most shocking moments. Like, from what I understand, people were leaving the arena thinking it was a done deal. Usman's never been knocked out like this, and Leon looked like he already gave up. So I don't think anybody saw that coming. I would love to know what the live odds were going into that 5th round. And if anybody put like even $1 on Leon Edwards, they're probably rolling in it right now. Just on the off chance. Like, I know people who don't even know anything about MMA. They just bet the odds. They don't even look into the fighters or anything like that. They just they'll pick a parlay or whatever, however it works. I'm terrible at gambling. Don't ever take gambling advice from me. You will lose your money. I would even tell you, like, do the opposite of what I say, but then that'll be the rare instance that I'm actually right, and you'll still lose your money. So I always tell you, I don't make picks on this show. Typically, I've done a few, but I don't want people parting with their money based on things that I say. I will give you ways that both fighters can win a fight. I will not tell you who to put your money on, because as much as I know about this sport, as long as I've been training and coaching and doing analysis and judging fights and all the knowledge I have, I cannot, for the life of me, pick a winner in a fight and put money on them and win. It just doesn't happen. It's not in the cards for me. My mom happens to be very lucky in that regard. She goes to the casinos and plays the slots and just wins every single time. Which, by the way, happens to be my mother's birthday in a few days. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. I don't know if you're listening, but, you know, I can call you separately, I guess. I don't have to just wish you happy birthday here. In any case, yeah, just all the circumstances surrounding that fight. And the fact that Leon looked like he was done. He looked like he was ready to throw in the towel. He did not look like a guy who wanted to be there anymore. He looked like he was already beaten. And man, it was such a beautiful setup. You know, he threw the feint. Usman bid on it hard. He went to parry, dropped his hand, and just ate a head kick. It was, you know, it was a mistake. You know, he shouldn't have been. He had that fight in the bag. He was leaving with that belt at the end of the night, guaranteed. All he had to do was just hold Leon up against the cage a little more, maybe take him down one more time, land a few light punches just to stay active, just so Herb Dean wouldn't stand it back up. That's all he had to do. But he chose to box with him because that's the kind of competitor Kamaru Usman is. And I haven't heard him say this, but, you know, I'm pretty sure he would do it again just because he believes in himself that much, even given this result. You know, if they rematch, I think he still would probably, you know, box with him just as much as he did in this fight. But yeah, I was not the biggest Leon Edwards fan, I have to say, just because of the way he carried himself and you know, different things happening where with him like turning down fights along the way on his way to the title. But man, when he won that title and talked about how he was born with nothing in Jamaica and look at me now and all this, it was really an amazing moment. And it's the kind of moment that we as fans need, just to be reminded that anything can fucking happen in this sport. Kamaru Usman was going to win the fight. A lot of people probably turned it off and went to bed. Imagine you fell asleep during that fight and you wake up, you know, thinking Usman's winning, and you see Leon Edwards getting interviewed and you're like, what the fuck happened? Like, how's this even possible? But, you know, that's why we love this sport, because anything is possible. And, you know, Leon Edwards proved that at, what was this event? UFC 278. I don't even pay attention to the names of the events since I haven't been doing this for a while. Mark Fellows, welcome me back to the airwaves. Cheers, Mark. Good to hear from you, buddy. We got Colombia in the house. Yeah, cheers in South America. Jeff the Animal Wilson's on his way to South America shortly. Mark, thanks for the compliment on my hair. He says, did I have my hair professionally curated for the occasion? It looks tremendous, really fantastic. That sounds like a compliment I would get from Donald Trump. But I appreciate it. It looks tremendous, really fantastic. Bill Welker's always had great hair. It's terrific. No, I did just shower. I mean, that's it. This is how I woke up like this. Let's see what else happened. Merab Dvalishvili with a big win over Jose Aldo. Aldo, man, I don't know what he was thinking in this fight. Yeah, he was like really hard to take down, always has been, but just no offense. So yeah, that was that. Merab just, pushed him up against the fence and bullied him for 3 rounds. So good on him. He's got a win over a former champion. He's going to keep moving up, but doesn't want to fight his teammate who's the champ. So I don't know. He's going to have to sit on the sidelines, maybe take a fight with the Corey Sandhagen, something like that. Tyson Pedro, big comeback fight, 1 minute knockout over Harry Hunsucker. Let's be honest, that's why this fight was made. This was they kind of served this one up to Tyson Pedro on a silver platter, and he got the message. He knew what he had to get in there and do. Very impressive. Marcin Tybura, majority decision over Alexander Romanov. Tybura is just like, I know I just said like never take my betting advice, but I will say Tybura is a guy that you never want to bet against because this guy can take a beating and he just keeps coming. It's unreal. Like you can't count this guy out. And Romanov was undefeated. He looked like a monster in that first fight, but then, just blew his wad, ran out of gas. And that's that. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's go back in time a little bit. Take a look at some other things we missed. We're just gonna cover like the last 2 months of fights because why not? It's Sunday. There's no MMA this weekend. You don't have anything better to do. Jamal Hill with a big win over Thiago Santos, another come from behind win. And we got a lot of questions answered about Jamal Hill and his toughness. Can he come back from adversity? And we know he can come back from a bad loss. Like when he got his arm broken by Paul Craig, I was like, if this guy ever even fights again, I'll be impressed. And he's come back from that and just keeps winning and doesn't seem fazed by it at all. If I got my arm snapped like that, I would, probably never even do jiu-jitsu again. And here's this guy like on his way to a title shot. Santos looked good though. He looked good in that fight. Let's see, what else did we have? We had this card I didn't even have pulled up, but Chito Vera with the win over Dominic Cruz. That was a weird fight to watch. And I'm sure Jeff is glad he's not here to talk about this one because Dominic Cruz is like his favorite fighter. But it was such a weird vibe in that fight because Dominic Cruz was clearly winning in the beginning. He was putting the pace on Chito Vera and was controlling the fight and was landing more. But you also had this feeling that he just was more likely to lose because he was controlling everything. But Chito Vera just has so much power. And Dominic Cruz, he's gotten touched up in his last few fights because he relies on speed and he's a lighter weight guy and speed is the first thing to go. And Chito figured out his footwork, figured out his patterns, and didn't throw the kick at his head. He threw the kick where his head was going. And, it's pretty disastrous. And Dominic Cruz has had an amazing career. He's been the champ. He's got a win over Mighty Mouse, who is, as a lot of you know, who just became the flyweight champ over and won once again with an impressive knockout. I think Dominic Cruz can still fight. I absolutely think he can fight and be competitive, but I don't think there's another championship in his future. Um, so maybe a super fight at 145, perhaps, is in his future. Um, I don't see him getting a title shot quickly, even if he moves up a weight class. But I think moving up is probably a good thing, especially since he's gotten his chin touched in his last few fights, couple of knockouts. Um, he has the win over Munoz, but he's got the knockout losses to Cejudo and to Chito Vera. I think moving up in weight would be a great move for him. I think there's a lot of fun fights for him at 145. And I don't know. I think if he does have one more title run in him, it would have to be at 45. I know he cuts a lot of weight. I know he's had a couple of real bad weight cuts. So the move up would be good for him. He'll be quicker than a lot of guys there. He's obviously still got the skills. He's still got the wrestling. He's still got the footwork, that snazzy footwork. And yeah. I'm trying to think. There was one fight in particular that happened during this hiatus that was super impressive. And I'm trying to think what it was. There's been a lot of great fights. Matt Schnell and Sue Madarji. That was back in a year and a half ago, July 16th, UFC on ABC3. But that fight was crazy. I loved that fight. It was so back and forth. I think Matt Schnell was knocked out like 8 times in that fight, still came back to submit Sue Madarji. So that was an awesome one. Shane Burgos over Charles Jourdain. That was a fun fight. And then Shane Burgos decided, he was going to choose himself and take the money and run and go over to the PFL. I think that was a big loss for the UFC, losing that guy. But, he's going to make some money over there. From what I understand, he's going to enter the tournament at 155 pounds also. So there's that. Let's see. What else did we have over these past few weeks? Whatever fun fights. Nikita Krylov just demolishing Alexander Gustafsson. I don't know if Gustafsson retired or not, but I'm not saying he should either, but maybe he should. Yeah. Paddy Pimblett, that guy's been making some waves. A lot of people calling him the next Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor today on his Instagram story showed himself having a good time with a young lady on a yacht. If you choose to go and look at it, don't do it with the kids around. I'll leave it at that. You guys can go check that out. That's been, making the rounds on the internet because, of course, there's thousands of people who screen recorded it so they could save it. But yeah, Paddy Pimblett looked good. It was a fun fight with Jordan Levitt. Levitt gave him a hard time in the first round. He was able to come back and submit him. The Jack Hermanson Chris Curtis fight was fun. That was a fun fight. It was a big step up in competition for Chris Curtis. And he had just fought like a few weeks prior as well. I'm a big fan of Chris Curtis, but maybe bit off a little bit more than he could chew with Jack Hermanson. And then what do you guys think about Curtis Blades? I mean, I know it was an injury win over Tom Aspinall, but like, you can't expect him to wait for Aspinall to heal if he's got, torn ligaments or whatever he's got in that knee. And what do you do with this guy? I mean, he's clearly one of the best heavyweights around. You got Ciryl Gane and Tuivasa fighting next week. So, maybe give him the winner of that. That would be fun because the heavyweight division's kind of bottlenecked right now because it looks like Ngannou is waiting out his contract, which ends in December. They're looking to do Ngannou versus John Jones in December. And if they can't do that, they want to do John Jones versus Stipe. But either way, you're looking at this title being tied up till at least December. Maybe they re-sign Ngannou. Maybe they work out something with the contract when his contract expires. Maybe they let him go. But either way, nothing's going to happen with that title till December. So you got the whole heavyweight division on ice here. And this is a time where you've actually got exciting heavyweights. So what are we doing here? Like, we got to do like an interim title, something. Because you got all these killers in the heavyweight division. You got Curtis Blades, you got Tai Tuivasa, you got Ciryl Gane, you got Stipe, who hasn't fought in who knows how long. You got apparently John Jones is a heavyweight now, although there's been no bout agreement in his future, and he's kind of like in a weird limbo. But not a great time to be a heavyweight. And then you got Tom Aspinall, who's one of the best prospects in the sport right now. So once he heals up, which will probably be before this heavyweight title gets sorted out here, because Francis kind of took his ball and went home, and it might not even fight in the UFC if they can't work something out. And then you got just a big juggling act going on here. And I'm just gonna pull up the I want to pull up that Dominic Cruz and Chito Vera fight card, because I feel like there was a fight on there that was just really awesome. And I don't know, you guys been watching any fights this weekend? There was BKFC last night. I think John Dodson made his debut, looked good. Taylor Starling in the main event got just starched and pretty much just like waved off the fight herself. Never seen anything like it. It seemed like she got hurt real bad. Like she might have broken an orbital or something. But yeah, bare knuckle boxing has been fun. Oh, okay. Here's the fight that I was thinking of. Nate Landwehr and David Onama. Holy shit. That fight was wild. It was wild. Nate Landwehr would take him down and just let him back up and start like waving at the crowd to get them hyped up. That fight was nuts. I'd say, and I feel bad I couldn't remember their names, but that's on my short list for fight of the year already, I gotta say. Nate Landwehr and David Onama. And then Nate Landwehr called out my boy Billy Q. And you guys know Billy Q. He's not backing down from a fight, so he's all for it. If we get to see those two in there together, that's gonna be a fucking fun night for sure. Let's see, Azamat Murzaganov with the TKO over Devin Clark. That guy's a fucking beast also. And then Gerald Meerschaert with his 400th submission win over Bruno Silva. That was nasty. Really knocked him out and just kind of snatched up the guillotine, like choked out a guy that was knocked out. That was a badass move. Yeah, so many fun fights that we haven't had the chance to talk about. I miss doing this with you guys. But like I said, other things just have to take priority, and I wasn't going to bring the show back until I was sure I could dedicate the time to it again, just because that's just how I am. If I'm going to do something, I'm not just going to be half in. So I had to put it on pause for a little while, get some things together in my personal life, and make sure everything was good with the family, and just get in a good headspace, really. And I did that, and I'm there. And your your mental health and the mental health of the people around you is the most important thing in your life. Whether it's something that you consciously think about or not. It really is. And I hope everybody is prioritizing that, and putting the unnecessary things on hold when you have to, because it really helps. And Mark says, let's be honest, you were waiting for Tuivasa and Whittaker to make their return. I am definitely excited for that card. So let's go ahead and take a look at it, Mark. Let me see. I'm just stumbling through these controls, like trying to remember how to do all this. Let's see. Let me put my fight card up here. Will this work? No, that didn't work. All right. And here we go. Here we go. We're back in business, folks. I still remember how to do some of this shit. I still remember how to drink whiskey. That's the important part. UFC Fight Night 209. Ciryl Gane versus Tai Tuivasa. This is a fun fight. It's a fun heavyweight fight. Let's let's be honest of what we're looking at here. Ciryl Gane is a more well-rounded fighter. Skill for skill, he's better everywhere. But, and this is a big but, Tai Tuivasa is just a tough, gritty dude who has one-shot knockout power. He can put down anybody in this division at any time. So this is a tough one for Ciryl Gane, I gotta say. And I do genuinely believe, like, his skills are better. But that just doesn't matter in this sport. It just doesn't. You know? It's just like it's kind of like what we just saw with Dominic Cruz and Chito Vera. It's like Dominic Cruz probably has better skills everywhere, but he just had to get touched once by Chito Vera. And it was like we were just waiting for it the whole time. And that's what I think is going to happen here. Ciryl Gane definitely has the skills to outpoint Tuivasa, but can he stay away from that power for 5 rounds? I don't know. I mean, he can, but I wouldn't trade places with him. Even if I got to look like him, he looks like a fucking Greek statue. Yeah, no. And this card, I believe, is taking place in France, which that the hometown advantage in MMA is not an advantage. It's an advantage in baseball when you got like people cheering your name and you know, you can hit a game-winning home run or whatever. It helps there. It helps. In MMA, traditionally, it tends to hurt the fighters because you got like your family and friends like contacting you, trying to get tickets, and like everybody you know is going to show up. You got a whole country behind you that wants to see a champion. It's like so much pressure. We see this every time Derek Lewis fights in Houston. It's like, dude, stop fighting in Houston. Go fight in fucking Abu Dhabi or like Bosnia, like anywhere but Houston. So yeah, there's that. So I wouldn't be surprised whoever comes out with this one. I think it's either going to be a decision for Ciryl Gane or it's going to be a knockout in any round from Tai Tuivasa. That's like from bell to bell, it's possible. It could happen in 4 minutes, 59 seconds of the 5th round. And I truly believe that. The co-main event, Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vettori. This is a great fight. And we're going to see if Robert Whittaker still has what it takes, because Vettori's going to bring it. He's going to pressure him. He's in France, which is like his backyard, being an Italian boy. Vettori's going to put that pressure on Whittaker, and typically when guys pressure Whittaker, that's when he fights best. He's had his worst fights with counter strikers like Ciryl Adesanya. So I would tend to lean towards Whittaker in this one if we've still got the championship caliber Robert Whittaker, which I think we do. I think he's still got some championship caliber fights in the tank. So I think that's what we're going to see. But Vettori is a beast, man. And he's hungry. This guy wants it. Like he wants to get back to that title shot. Like he's one of the hungriest guys in the division, and nobody can deny that. Let's see. Bounce around a little bit here. John Makdessi and Nasrat Haqparast is a really fun fight. But I'll tell you guys, the fight I'm looking forward to that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, Nassourdine, Imavov, and Joaquin Buckley. Why Joaquin Buckley is on the prelims, I cannot understand. Let me just take a look at his record to see if there's something I'm missing here. Yeah, TKO win in his last fight, split decision win over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, which we saw a whole new level to his game in that fight. And then a nasty knockout of Antonio Arroyo before that. He did have the head kick loss back in January 2021 to Alessio de Chirico, who's also fighting on this card. But can anybody explain to me why Joaquin Buckley is on the prelims? I mean, the guy had the biggest highlight reel of 2021. And he's got 3 impressive wins in a row. This makes zero sense to me. Charles Jourdain and Nathaniel Wood is a really fun fight as well. This is a solid card. Alessio de Chirico, like I mentioned, on this fight, middleweight fight against Roman Kopylov. But very top heavy. This card is very top heavy. It's almost like you want to tune in for the Buckley Imavov fight and then, go smoke a brisket or something and come back for Whittaker and Vettori. I feel like a lot of people may be doing that. And since this is in France and maybe at an odd time of day, so yeah, we'll see. But it's going to be a fun one for sure. Okay. Figured out how to turn that off. Listen, I miss doing this so much. I miss talking to you guys, and hopefully a lot of you are glad the show is back. You haven't just unsubscribed and turned off your notifications and everything like that. So make sure you got all that up and running. The sports world has been waiting for 2 things, folks. Let's be honest. Tom Brady to get back on the practice field, and the MMA on the Rocks podcast to be back on all your favorite podcast platforms, Facebook and YouTube. So I am definitely glad to be back. I got a lot of exciting things in the works. A lot's changed over the past few months. I've been actually exploring some really exciting career change opportunities potentially. A lot of fun things been happening with the family. My daughter's just like growing up in front of my eyes, and she's 4 going on 40 and just talking back to me every day. And it's fucking hilarious and spectacular and saddening and emotional at the same time. But a big thank you again to everybody who reached out. I know a lot of people do the stepping away from social media as like a cry for attention. I can assure you that's not what it was in my case. I just needed to get myself in a good headspace, and being on social media just doesn't help with that, because social media is is the dumpster fire of mankind. But I'll be getting back in there. Not as much as before, but just enough to interact with all the cool people that I've definitely been missing the past few months. If you've really been missing the show, you can still grab yourself some merchandise through our friends at Team Reaper. Reaper1.co is the website. You can use the promo code MMA Rocks 10. Save yourself 10% on your order, whether you buy my merchandise or not. But you can grab yourself an MMA on the Rocks t-shirt, hoodie, or tank top. I still don't have one of those hoodies myself. I suppose I should get one of them, but it's still 100 degrees here in Florida, even though they're already selling like pumpkin beer and pumpkin cheesecake and all that shit in the grocery store. It's like you sweat from your car to the entrance of the store, and then you get in the store and it's like, what is all that? Why are they selling these cinnamon broomsticks and this pumpkin beer right now? Like it's 95 degrees in the store and they got the air conditioning pumping. But in any case, you want to grab some MMA on the Rocks merch, go ahead and grab it. Or you can, buy some merchandise from a local fighter and support some of them. Either way, you're putting some positive energy out there. And that's what I appreciate about you folks. You're always keeping it positive. That's why I came back to do this again. So, cheers to all of you. Cheers to Jeff the Animal Wilson, wherever he may be in the world. I think he's in Aruba right now and then on his way to Peru. And then who knows after that. I think he's Iceland, Antarctica. He's going to go save the penguins or something. That's all I got. Love you guys. Until next time. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.